Hi. I don't know if this is going to be a useful video, but I want to make a quick distinction, and I hope this will be short. I hope it's not going to be a long one. But the distinction I want to make about the Borg mentality, the sheeple people, and understanding how the hive mind works. It's all about a thought process, and not being able to think for yourself. It's not a particular thought process. It's about jumping onto trends. You see how people in the past, trend setting and understanding how trends work, and how people just follow the thing. They in the 70s they wore certain things, in the 60s they wore certain things, and a progression leading to an end, or leading to some kind of future trend, leading to something else, leading to something else. And at this point, I'd say we're completely open to all these trends. You see people dressing in all sorts of different ways, doing things in all sorts of different ways, putting their hair in all sorts of different ways, doing things in all sorts of different ways, and interacting and doing things in all sorts of different ways. And it's more open. We take the things from the past and we apply them to the future. And the more the things that we have from the past, the more there was in the past, the more there's going to be to the more there's going to be the buildup that we have now. So the Borg that you want, the concept of a Borg mentality, hive mind, people just doing things the cliche way, wearing their khaki pants or khaki shorts and their polo t-shirts or whatever. I mean, that's just one niche of what I call a Borg mentality. There's the other Borg of the people and doing other things, doing a different niche. It's a thought process of jumping on the bandwagon in a certain group. And it could just be a small group, but you're part of that group now. And it just depends on how small or big the group is that you're considered more of this or more of that, because it took a smaller group. You're part of a smaller group or whatever it is, and the bigger the group, the more likely you can apply that label to it of some kind of hive mind, Borg mentality, sheeple people kind of thing going on. The bigger the group is, and the more people that jump on the group or jump on the bandwagon. But in a way, you can almost say the bigger the bandwagon, the more powerful it is. And if a person jumps on at the end, it shows it took a lot for them to jump on the bandwagon. But it's a thought process, and that's jumping on a bandwagon. Jumping on the bandwagon, and in a lot of cases, people are forced into it, sort of like people that are balding, or people that have a small chin, or whatever it is. They want to cover their face up with facial hair, and they're forced to look like the cliche person that wears facial hair, or the person that has to wear a baseball cap over their head, or has to shave their head bald because they're so insecure with their they're losing their hair, or having baldness, or whatever it may be, insecurities, whatever it may be. People are kind of sometimes forced into it. And you can't always blanketly say that someone is a certain way without at least coming to an acknowledgement of what exactly is going on in a certain situation. But you can always blame the things that happen around it and the interaction the person has. But you still have to find a way to blame the person, because that's exactly what we're working. We're working inside the game. The person making the accusation, the person that's a victim, is working on the same level as the person that made the crime, even though they're being controlled by the processes that be, the processes of determinism and things happening and these interactions happening against our will, the chaotic interactions and the cause and effect. Doesn't mean that they can't take responsibility for their actions. And like we said, we're playing out this game, regardless. Sorry, God, I went off on a limb there, and that's exactly what I do in all these videos. But I'm just trying to connect all these ideas together, and I'm trying my best to make them as coherent as possible. I'm trying to create a foundation, like I said, an internal logic that makes sense. I'm trying to say it and spew it on the camera so I make sense of all these things and how they connect and interact. That's all I'm trying to do, and that's the goal I have. So the Borg mentality, I think everyone understands. It's not a certain thing. It's not the people wearing the khaki pants or whatever cliche or stereotype or group of people that you fit into. It's not that. It's the jumping on the bandwagon. All of a sudden, people start wearing long hair and say sweatshirts. Then that becomes the Borg mentality. And I guess it depends on who started the Borg mentality or started that trend that caused everyone to start jumping on the bandwagon. So it's a thought process. If I created one, I'd be just as responsible for creating some kind of Borg mentality. Obviously, I didn't jump on board. I'm the one that created it, but I'm obviously part of that now. Even if I created it, I'm still part of the cliche that I created. I'm still doing the same thing unless I decide to change my habits or whatever I want to apply to a certain situation to call what cliche or Borg or what not to call Borg or whatever it may be. Borg, sheeple. It's funny. It's such an irrelevant topic, but it's something that it means something in the end because it's about convincing the Borg people in the end, the people that follow through with the same old typical disposition and trying to convince them that there's something. My throat's dry and it hurts right now. There's something more to this game than meets the eye. Not necessarily more to the game, but looking beyond the same old things that you've been looking at all this time and trying to find a solution to the problems that we have. People have problems, they just don't realize how much their problems can be prevented. They're existing in the problems, and there's this automatic assumption in us, experience that we have, is we exist, we experience the negatives, and it couldn't have happened any other way, or we're experiencing them, and we don't realize how good it would be if we didn't have to experience them. It's happening, and we live with them, but we don't realize how much. We don't realize, even if we say we don't like it, we want it to end, we don't realize just by living how much it would be better it would be that if we didn't exist or we weren't going through the problem. We just that's why people get stuck in abusive relationships. That's why we're stuck in the life game. That's why people find it hard to kill themselves. If they're in a bad situation, they want to, but they so desperately want to, but they're already stuck in the game, and they don't realize just how pleasant it would be not to exist, or none, or zero would be not to exist. Because they exist and they've put up with the problems now before, and they've why not deal with the problems now? Unless they get really bad. And you can almost say wanting to die speaks for itself, because when you want to die, when things get so bad, the death speaks for itself. The negativity that you were experiencing speaks for itself, and then you kill yourself. And that's no reason you shouldn't have to go through that to begin with. You shouldn't have to go through the negative. You shouldn't have to go through a horrid experience to make you feel like you don't want to live. And it doesn't matter if it speaks for itself. It doesn't matter that it drives you there against your will. That the negativity just takes control of you. And if you want to die, you're obviously, things have to get so bad for you. And if you don't want to die, things are obviously bad enough. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't have to go through the things that don't make you want to kill yourself, and you shouldn't have to go through the things that make you want to kill yourself, that will lead you to kill yourself. You should just not have to exist to begin with. And just because I'm here doesn't mean I had to exist. And just because, say, a parent says the same thing, doesn't mean that the parent had to have me or someone else. You were innocent until you had another kid, or you had a kid, and you're guilty once you commit the crime. And just because you didn't ask to be here and you decided to have me doesn't mean you can defend having me. It's because you were here against your will. So you're guilty. So you're guilty regardless. It doesn't matter that it happened a certain way. You're guilty. You are guilty. And it didn't happen until you decided to make the decision. It was going to happen. Looking back, but looking forward, you still have the control. You still have the responsibility. Oh, yeah. Anyway, it's a thought process. Sorry, it's a thought process, and it's less of a thing, and it's more of a thought process. It's about trend setting and things like that. It's not about a particular thing that happens to be the way they are now. Whatever it may be, cliche or stereotype or Borgish individual you want to assume, you probably fit into another category as well. And to a certain category, to a certain extent. It just depends on how big the group is and how many aspects of your being someone can sense in you, or whatever it may be. It speaks for you. It speaks for itself when you see someone and how they do dress similarly, or they act similarly. They do the same things. They have the same mannerisms. You can tell, and it speaks for itself. It doesn't need your description, your subjective description. You can see it. It exists in a certain way, even if you can't go down to the nitty-gritty atomic level, how many point spaces are moving to describe a certain situation. It still can be described. So it's a thought process. It's jumping on the bandwagon. It's trend setting and jumping on the trends. Group size and all sorts of things are the X and Y, as opposed, I mean, the Z, the Y and a Z, as opposed to the X variable that means more. So those are just different variables that you can add to the situation. But it's a thought process. Jumping on the bandwagon once you see everyone else. It's a predisposition to jumping on the bandwagon and not being able to think for yourself as much and just doing what other people do and taking that to heart. So it's more of that than anything. Sorry, I wasn't speaking as fast as I usually speak, but my voice hurts, and I tried to make a simple thing very easy, very hard, very simple concept, very hard, and trying to find different ways of attacking it. And sometimes you can't find a way to lead the description anywhere else, and you sort of think, and you don't go anywhere. So anyway, thank you, and until next time, bye.